What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys with so many new stuff coming out of how to progress through the game. So this is going to be kind of a guide, a breakdown of early game, mid game, and late game, especially because there's so much content to focus on and so many things you can be doing. A lot of people can sometimes feel frustrated when they're not progressing through the game. So this is a guide to help you understand what you're getting yourself into and what's going to be coming at each stage of the game. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first things first, the first thing, no matter where you are, whether early to late game, something you should always be doing is guild stuff. So guild stuff, the second you can join a guild, join a guild. That's the biggest thing because you just get so much out of it. You can get, if you have a good guild, a lot of times they will aid you, they'll give you stuff you need. The other thing is the world boss. Even if you don't have all the units, it's free rewards, it's free gold for very little energy. The guild wars, of course, getting those mystic summons, and the big thing, the member shop. If you donate every day, you can be getting rare catalysts, more labyrinth compasses, which are good at all stages of the game, and just everything you will need as early game. And all through the game, you always need to have guild wars. So that's something, no matter where you are, you should join a guild. There's so many community posts. There's Facebook and there's Reddit posts of people always looking for guild members. So there's just a guild for you somewhere out there. So make sure you go and try it out and find a good guild that's engaged. So that's for everyone. Now we're going to be breaking this video down into early, mid, and late game phases. I'm going to try to keep it as simple and brief as possible. So early game is the first stage where I feel like a lot of my viewers come from the early to mid stage game. So this video is primarily for y'all. But the big thing for early game, this is probably the time you're either just getting into Epic 7. You're like, oh yes, this game is amazing. You probably got your 10-10 summons. You probably just cleared stage 10-10, exploration 10-10, and you're having fun with the game. Probably don't even have your first 6-star. This is where you are in the early game. So biggest thing is 6-starring your farmer in early game. That is literally the first thing you need to do, because at early game you should just be focusing on racing your core team. So what do I mean by core team or core units? So these are units that can be used in a wide variety of different content that's going to help you from early to late game, and it's probably the part where everyone has the most fun picking their unit that they're going to stick with for a long time, building their units, understanding more about the game. So the first thing you need to do is get a farmer. So my farmer is actually my BBK, who I also use for my cleave comp, which is why I have invested so much on her. But the set that she has, if y'all see that, 4 out of the 6 comes from a free equipment. So this is something you early game players have access to. And look at my BBK stats. Like, she is rolling in good stats. And you guys have the opportunity to have a farmer like this. It doesn't have to be BBK. I honestly encourage you to build someone else, such as Cess, or more particularly if you have them, which you hopefully should have them if you watch all the guides and the tutorials who they tell you should start with, who is going to be Vildred. You want to put this equipment on him because you want to be able to clear those story stages to get XP for units as fast as possible. Vildred is the best one to do that. If you started the game without a Vildred, this stage in the game is gonna take a while. It's gonna be rough, I know, but it's everyone's at their own pace. Right now, you're only playing the game PvE. You're probably not worrying too much about PvP, so it's okay if you didn't open Vildred, but Vildred being your farmer, that's the biggest thing you're gonna be doing. The next 6-star units, I have a whole guide on this, but it's going to be your healer, who you're gonna be using in a lot of different content, and the healer you should be working towards. Angelica for the early game, because she just gives you rewards right away, but I would not 6-star her. And the person you're going to be taking a lot longer to build, but who's going to be with you for a long time, Angelic Montmorency, by far used everywhere in the game. Honestly, there's no place you won't use her. That's the other unit you want to be building up. Ideally 6-star, because she does need a lot of stats and she can die early. But they gave a really good health set, so you guys should be able to build a really good Montmorency early on. And then last but not least, a single target damage dealer, who in y'all's case is going to be Lorena for a lot of people, since Luna is not going to be out for a while. We don't know when she's coming back, so it's a good investment to invest in Lorena. And everyone who has a Lorena loves their Lorena. It's just more investments you have to do. But this is what all the initial game is about. This arena button, don't stress too much about it. PvP it's okay to literally just do the challenges, get some gems. It's not that big of a deal if you're not super hard climbing arena. Just start getting some of your core units. Do arena when you want to. Do arena if you're having fun with it. Don't stress too much about it, because at early game, it's all about building those initial teams to help you out through the game. One thing also early game, when you know, so like the gate between early game and mid game, I would say, is being able to clear Ottoman Tower and later stages of Labyrinth. I made a second account, and honestly, up to like Nixie Santum, everything is basically trash. Like, there's almost no good rewards. I would still do them for the storyline because it's pretty cool and I enjoyed it, but definitely the equipment there is not going to help you out. It's something that if you're wasting time doing Labyrinth and you're not getting good equipment, it's not the best thing. If anything, do it for the ancient coins. So do what you can, but you know you're a mid-game player when you can clear Nixie Santum pretty easily, and when you can even start doing some Labyrinth. This is when you're deep into the mid-game, is when you can clear all Labyrinth stages. But we'll talk about that in a second. So that's a good way to let you know if you're past the early game, is can you clear all these stages in Labyrinth, and can you complete Ottoman Tower? Because if you're unable to clear either of those, you probably need to go back to fixing your units, 6-starring more units, awakening your units, building your core team to help you out. That's your primary focus, and they make it really easy and really streamlined. You're only probably going to be in early game the first month, which, yeah, that sounds like a long time, but it's, if you're in the long run, you're going to be in the long run. So now we get to the next stage, which is the stage that probably most players in the game either get stuck at, or quit, because this is the phase in the game where you can't do things you want to do as much, and you have to do things that you may not like. I was the one of the second part where I was hard stuck because I didn't want to build the units that I know would help me throughout the whole game. I was determined that I was going to use only the units I liked, but it's a hard pill to swallow, and this is why one of the reasons why most people do quit at the mid game. And let me just tell you guys, it's a lot of grinding, it's a lot of farming, and it's not as fun as everything else up to this point. So big thing for mid-game players, your primary focus, and you are not out of the mid-game until you can achieve this, is to be able to consistently auto all the hunts at B11. Yes, B13 is coming out, but that's late game content. That's something we're going to talk about in a second. But for early game, for mid-game players, your primary focus is building teams to clear this. And they give you really good ideas on what to do it. You can literally come over here and look at the statistics, and if you literally just build the top 4 units used, you're probably going to be clearing. Like, you know, these 4 units, you're probably going to be clearing it. Luna, yes, again, you probably have to switch her out for like Terranor Guard or Alexa, but it's something that you need to be able to clear. And the reason why it's so annoying is because to clear some of these, you have to build units that you may not want to build. You have to build more healers, you have to build more units that are solo element. Like, you might have a really cool MO 5-star. Like when I had Spectre Tenebria at the time, I built her. She didn't do anything for me way back then, and I lost a lot of time. I lost a lot of resources building something that wasn't helping me progress. So that's the biggest thing mid-game has to focus on, with a side interest or a growing interest in optimizing your first team for arena, because you need to start climbing. Mid-game players, they will peak at around master. They will not be able to get to challenger, they won't be able to get to champion, they will just peak at masters, and that's how you know you're still a mid-game player. Because if you can't make it into challenger, it means you don't have the correct equipment, you don't have the stats. It's literally a stat check. Everyone should be able to get to challenger. It's that easy, but you have to have the correct stats, which that just tells you that you need to be able to clear these wyvern stages. It's not unit dependent, it's build dependent. This, along with Labyrinth, are the 2 things mid-game players will have to hard focus on, especially like the normal Labyrinth. Once you build teams for Wyvern B11 and like Golem B11 and Banshee B11 and Asimak Hunt B11, normal difficulty, you will realize you can actually clear. And one thing you will realize as a mid-game player, and when you know you're done with the mid-game, is when you can clear all PvE content in Epic 7. Except Abyss. So Abyss is something, of course, you take at your own pace, but at this point in the game, at mid-game, you should be able to get to Abyss stage 80. And Abyss is a good way to also check your progress. And you will see that when you're building the units for different B11s like Wyvern B11, Banshee B11, and Golem, you'll realize you're able to clear Abyss much faster. You're going to realize you have the right units. You're going to be like, wow, I can actually clear this content pretty easy. So in a way, it builds on your early game because you still have to farm. You still have to get XP. Ideally, you'll be farming the stages. You'll be farming adventure stages. You'll be farming these stages for like awakening materials. All of that good stuff. And that's how you know you're a mid-game player. Past mid-game is when you can pass all the Wyvern hunts and you can do decent in Abyss. So now we get to early stages of late game / what the end game is all about. And this is the part that it's like everyone should hear because this is what end game is all about. And it's what the ultimate goal of this game. And that is going to be PvP. That is the pinnacle of late game. And everything you've been working on has been to building up to PvP. Which for a lot of people, that's not what they want. But you know, that's a problem that a lot of people have brought up in late game. And a lot of people don't realize it until they get to late game. That they're like, oh, that's why they complained about it. Is because there's no real late game PvE content. And you will realize this once you reach this stage. That the only hard PvE content will be Abyss. Which you will be able to clear as you build more units. But that is late game. Like Abyss stage 80 through 100. All late game. You will realize that that's your last PvE challenge will be that. Everything else, the only challenge, the only time I'm not clicking the auto button is when I'm running Arena or Guild Wars. And that's basically boils down to like an hour of my day, which is not as much part. Like everything else, it's literally just click auto and I'm done. Because I can already build everything. I don't need to really build my units. My units for the most part, unless I want a really quick unit. Most of the times I'm just grinding for materials and then deciding when I want to use them. So big thing with late game is you are going to be focusing on PvP and units that will help you be better. And one big thing you'll know you're in late game is when you hit Challenger and you're like me, the grinding is hard to try to get to Champion. Which is how I know I'm still like mid to stash late game PvP because I still don't have all the teams. But I've been doing a lot better because I've been building more teams. And that's what the fun of Epic 7 comes for a late game player, is in building teams. So just for example, for this person, I have way different teams. Like I have a core, which is my Basaran Challenger Dami. But then I could also decide to bring a slower team. I can play around with the units I have. And that's where the fun really kicks in, especially if you're very PvP oriented. And your primary focus in this is to try to get the best gear and pick the right units to counter the meta. That's literally what it all boils down to. And what does that mean? You're gonna be farming a lot more hunt, but also doing a lot more optimization, which is a whole other video in itself. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Primarily for you early to mid game players, making sure you're progressing to the game, making sure you're not getting locked in and feeling frustrated. Make sure you follow these simple steps, and you'll be on your way to joining the PvP best. But that is all I have for you guys today. I will see y'all next time. Peace.